this is the only example that I want to do today. Okay? Full disclosure, this is it. I want to give you guys plenty of work time to work on stuff, so let's do this one, and then we'll talk a little bit after this one, after we do this one, after I go through it. I got a couple of things to talk about, and then it'll be work time, so you'll get a good chunk of work time today. Okay? Alright? Go for it. Bam. Okay? Step 0. Simplify. Okay? So let's simplify. So on top, we've got, whoa. On top, we've got x minus 1. X squared plus 3x plus 2, that factors to be x plus 2 and x plus 1. The bottom factors to be x minus 2 and x plus 2. So, the x plus 2 cancel each other out, leaving me with all over 2. Yes? Love it. Okay? So, domain then is going to be all real numbers, but x cannot be plus or minus 2, because again, I look pre-simplification for domain, but my vertical asymptote is just x equals 2 because I look post simplification for that. Okay. Horizontal asymptotes, I've got a degree of 2 on the top on my new one. I've got a degree of 1 on the bottom on my new one. So that's going to be a none case. But it's got an asterisk by it because it differs by 1. Y-intercept is next. Plug in 0. If I plug in 0, I've got 0 minus 1 is negative 1. 0 plus 1 is positive 1. 0 minus 2 is negative 2. So negative 1 times positive 1 is negative 1. Negative 2 is negative 2. So that gives me a y-intercept of positive 1/2. X-intercept is next. Numerator equal to 0, so that's going to be x minus 1 times x plus 1 is going to equal 0. Minus 1 equals 0, so x is 1. Plus 1 equals 0, so x is negative 1. So I get 2 x-intercepts at negative 1 comma 0 and at 1 comma 0. Step 5 is the whole, something factored out. So we definitely have to figure out what the whole is. So if we set what we factored out was x plus 2, we set that equal to 0, that gives us x equals negative 2. So my whole is going to be at negative 2 comma something. Plug in negative 2 into my new function. So that would be negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3. Negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. Negative 2 minus 2 is negative 4. So that's going to be positive 3 over negative 4, so that's going to be at negative 3/4. Okay. So that was 5. Step 6 is we have to find the slant asymptote. We have a slant asymptote. So if I do x minus 1 times x plus 1, I got to multiply that back out. That's going to be x squared plus x minus x, so that's plus 0x, minus 1. So I could go x minus 2 equals 0, gives me x equals 2, 1, 0, and negative 1, 1, 2, 3, drop the remainder, so that gives me a slant asymptote here of y equals x plus 2. All right. Let's go to the graph. All right, so we had a vertical asymptote at x equals 2. X equals 2. Love it. We didn't have a horizontal asymptote. We had a y-intercept of 1/2. So 0, 1/2. We had x-intercepts of positive 1 and negative 1. We had a hole at negative 2, comma, negative 3/4. We had a slant asymptote, y equals x plus 2. It looks like we've got a cluster of groups on the left side, on the left zone, so I don't think we have to necessarily try any points in that zone. Agreed? Yeah. So I would say that this here, in this left zone, come along there, and it's going to go like that. Okay? So we just really have to try some points over here in this right zone. Our function again was x minus 1, x plus, oops, I'm going to put x plus 2. X plus 1, and x minus 2 on the bottom. If I remember correctly. Yes, it is. Okay. So let's try 3. If I put 3 in there, 3 minus 1 is 2. 3 plus 1 is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. 3 minus 2 is 1. If I do 4, 4 minus 1 is 3. 4 plus 1 is 5. 3 times 5 is 15. 4 minus 2 is 5. 5 minus 1 is 4. 5 plus 1 is 6. 4 times 6 is 24. 5 minus 2 is 3, so that's 8 again. So 3, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, 7.5. So it looks like that. Questions, comments, concerns, clarifications? Need me to go over some maths somehow? All good in the hood? Yeah. Let's talk here a little bit about the rest of the calendar year. Okay? So, you've got actually here, let's take these one at a time. You've got your week 15 worksheet. Okay? That's 4 problems, right? That you should be done with by now. I mean, really, you should be done with it by now because you've had everything, every tool in your toolbox since Monday. Okay? So that one should be done. You could turn that in today, but it's technically not due until Sunday. Okay? Fine. No big deal. All right? Then you also have the week 16 worksheet. Now that one's a little longer. That's 8 graphs. Okay? That is due on Sunday. Actually, excuse me, Wednesday. Next week, Wednesday. I want everything due before Christmas. Okay? So you have off, so we have class on Monday, which we'll talk about here in a minute. You don't have class on Tuesday, and you don't have any school on Wednesday. So it is realistic of me to say, let's get it done by Wednesday. Okay? Because of this next part. This next part says, our summative assessment will open up Monday morning at 8 a.m. Okay? So if you're ready to go with the summative on Monday, you can start taking the summative on Monday in class. Okay? You can do that. It's going to come in 2 parts. The first part is going to be an online 14 question. Actually, I lied. It's actually 15 questions. I think it's 15 because one of the questions is the graphs, which we'll talk about here. Okay? So I think it might be 15, but anyways, but you don't really have to answer that one. Okay? So the first part is going to be a mix of multiple choice and fill in the blank questions. Okay? One of the questions in that online part, you're going to have to write down 3 equations, 3 functions. And you're going to have to graph those 3 functions for part 2. Part 2 is going to be turned in much like a homework is going to be turned in. Okay? So part 1 counts for 17 points. Okay? Part 2 counts for 15 points. Each graph is 5 points. Okay? So they're almost equal in weight. So if you do one and not the other, you're only going to get a 17 out of 32 for the summative. Okay? You got to do both to get the grade that you want to get. And you got to do part 1 first, because part 1 gives you the questions or the graphs for part 2. Clear as mud? Okay? And I want all of that done by Wednesday night. Totally doable. Okay? In class, if we were taking this paper and pencil, you'd have 1 hour to do this. Okay? I'm giving you 3 days. totally doable. Totally doable. Okay? Any questions about the test? Yep. Yep. If you need extra, so you will need make sure that, but like for you guys, because this is, you know, your last day before you would have to take it, make sure you have 3 blank drafts before you leave. Okay? B groupers, you can get your graph paper on Monday. Okay? Virtual people, you're going to have to print out graph paper or, you know, find some graph paper somewhere. But I want the graphs on graph paper. Okay? I don't want you to just draw yourself in axes and kind of whittle it in. I want them to be exact. Okay? When you submit the graphs, I want your graphs submitted individual pictures. I don't just want one picture of the whole page. And there will be instructions on that. You will have to submit individual pictures of your graphs on one submission, but I don't want you just to hold up the page from like way back here and expect me to read it. Okay? You're gonna have to take some pride in it. Okay? Good? All right. Rest of the time is yours to work.